I lost my daughter. I lost a piece of myself. The glue to this family. After I reviewed the bill, it made sense to me. Common sense. Unfortunately, as we all know, common sense is not so common. So, I fight. The gun violence is out of control. Somebody has to do something. But what saddens me and hurts the most is that it takes a mother of a murdered daughter to stand up and speak and try and make a change and a difference in this state.
That was Anna Thallis, the mother of Isabella Thallis, who was killed while walking her dog with her boyfriend in Denver's Ballpark neighborhood last summer. The gun used to shoot her belonged to a Denver police sergeant and mistakenly ended up in the suspect's hands. Thallis spoke as Governor Polis signed a bill requiring individuals to report lost or stolen firearms. It's one of several bills signed today. Denver 7's Megan Lopez explains.
Governor Polis is getting ready to sign 2 gun bills into legislation. The first one is Senate Bill 78 for lost or stolen firearms. Basically what it says is that you have 5 days to report once you discover that your firearm was either lost or stolen. If you don't, the first time it's considered a civil infraction punishable by a $25 fine. The second time or beyond is considered a misdemeanor punishable by a $500 fine. Now, this is something that Isabel Joy Thallis' family has been pushing for, so much so that the bill was actually renamed in her honor. Now, this bill is something that is a little bit interesting because it does have a petition clause on it, and basically what a petition clause does is it says after the governor signs this bill into law, people who don't like it have 90 days to gather enough signatures to try to call a referendum on it so that people vote on it. It's a bill that had some controversy in the Colorado state legislature. Republicans were against it, Democrats were for it. Most of the votes that happened along party lines, with all the Democrats voting yes, all the Republicans voting no. So we can imagine that there's going to be some pushback on this. We'll be keeping a close eye on those 90 days after this bill is signed. Now, the second bill that was going to be signed by the governor is House Bill 1106. It's also known as the Safe Storage of Firearms. Essentially what it says is that adults have to reasonably and safely lock up their guns in order to make sure that minors and people that really are not supposed to be having access to those guns do not. Now, if they don't, it's considered a misdemeanor crime. So it's another one of those that's going to be punishable by a fine and maybe even some jail time. Now, unlike Senate Bill 78, this House bill actually has a safety clause. And what a safety clause says is that there's such an immediate need to get this bill onto law that once the governor signs it, it goes into effect. That's what's known as a safety clause. Again, this one was a bill that was controversial, that had Republicans mainly voting against it, Democrats mainly voting for it. And one of the big arguments that we heard from Republicans during all these hours of debate about this bill in particular was that firearm owners want to have access to their guns quickly in case somebody breaks into their house. They don't want to have to try to go and get it out of a gun safe or try to get it out of a locking device. So that was one of the main arguments. But nevertheless, Democrats have control of the legislature, and so they were able to get this one passed. The governor signed it on Monday. I'm Megan Lopez.